There is a restlessness in you that has nothing to do with anxiety and everything to do with readiness. You have been feeling it for weeks, maybe longer, without quite being able to name it or trace it to a specific source. It is the particular energy of someone who has reached the edge of a known territory and can feel the larger one just beyond it, but has not yet been able to find the crossing. You can sense that something in the version of your life you have been living has grown to the edges of its container, and that the container is about to change, not because anything is wrong with what you have built, but because what you have built has been preparation for something larger, and the larger thing is very close now. The things that used to feel like enough have been leaving a specific kind of residue lately. A sense that the way you've been communicating and connecting and expressing yourself has been a partial translation of something fuller that has been trying to find its form. The conversations that should have felt complete and left you with the slight sense of having not quite said the real thing. The creative impulse that has been building pressure without finding the channel it was meant to move through. The connection you've been wanting, not just a person, but a quality of being genuinely met by life in the specific place where you live most fully, that has felt like it was supposed to exist but couldn't quite break through the existing structure of your daily reality. You have been standing at a door. You could feel it. You couldn't find the handle. Tomorrow, the handle appears. And I need you to understand, before the event arrives, in the specific hours remaining, what kind of door this actually is and what it opens into, so that when it swings open you recognize it for what it is and you walk through. Uranus enters Gemini tomorrow, and those 4 words carry a weight that is genuinely difficult to communicate without the context of how rarely they are spoken. Uranus has not been in Gemini since the mid-1940s. The last time this planet occupied this sign, the world was in the middle of one of its most radical communications revolutions, the birth of the technologies and systems that would eventually connect every human being on Earth to every other. That was Uranus in Gemini in its last cycle. The complete reinvention of how information moves, how people connect, how ideas travel across distance and time. 80 years have passed since then, an entire human lifespan. And now Uranus returns to Gemini, and returns not into the technological landscape of the mid-20th century, but into a world already so deeply networked and communicatively transformed that the revolution Uranus brings this time is not the hardware. It is the human being inside it. Uranus is the planet of liberation, of radical change, of the disruption that makes new things inevitable by making old arrangements impossible to sustain. Gemini governs communication, not just the technology of it, but the living, relational, personal expression of it. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you connect your inner world to the world outside you through language and gesture, and the specific, unrepeatable signature of your individual mind making contact with another. The way you learn and teach and share what you know. The way you show up in every conversation, every collaboration, every connection as someone with something specific and irreplaceable to offer. When Uranus enters Gemini tomorrow, it enters the territory of all of those things and begins its 7-year work of liberating, revolutionizing, and permanently transforming them. Not just in the aggregate of society, though it will do that too enormously. In you, in the specific, personal, intimate way that the restlessness you have been feeling is exactly the sensation of these 2 forces approaching each other from either side of a threshold. You on one side, the new energy on the other, both moving toward the moment of contact. Tomorrow is that moment. Here is what Uranus entering Gemini specifically unlocks for you. And I want to be specific rather than general, because what is opening tomorrow is not a vague expansion of possibility, but a precise release of what has been held. The way you communicate, the way you express what you actually think and feel and know, has been running through a filter that the old energy required. Taurus, where Uranus has spent the last 7 years, is the energy of security and structure and the careful, slow, ground-up building of stable things. Under Taurus's influence, the way you expressed yourself has been subject to a kind of gravity. A pull toward the known, the proven, the form of expression that could be safely received within existing structures. The ideas that were too new or too fast or too electric to land comfortably in the Taurus-defined containers of communication have been building pressure, which is precisely the pressure you have been feeling as the impulse that didn't have its channel. That filter lifts tomorrow. Uranus in Gemini has no patience for the safe, gravity-bound, stay within the established container quality of expression. It is the energy of the idea that moves faster than the structure designed to contain it, of the communication that reaches across categories and disciplines and established ways of understanding and creates something entirely new at the point of contact, of the voice that speaks the thing nobody else has found the words for yet, and finds that the words, once spoken, land with the specific electric recognition of something true finally being articulated. The connections that have felt almost possible but blocked by the existing structure of your life. The ones where the resonance was present but the channel wasn't. Those connections are about to find their channels. Uranus in Gemini is the energy of sudden, unexpected, electric recognition between minds. Of the meeting that changes how both people think. Of the collaboration that produces something neither person could have arrived at alone. Of the human contact that feels, in its quality of genuine meeting, like finding something that was lost rather than encountering something new. Those connections, which the Taurus filter was slowing because they required the kind of structural disruption that Taurus resists, are now available. The channel is opening. The people who are meant to encounter your specific, irreplaceable way of thinking and expressing and connecting are about to find their way to you through channels that are only opening now. And the creative expression, the work, the art, the project, the specific form in which what you carry is meant to be shared with the world, if that has been building and building without finding its form, without finding its audience, without finding the container that fits its actual shape and scale, that is about to change in the way that only Uranian energy can change it. Suddenly, unexpectedly, with the sense of, oh, this is what it was always building toward. Why it starts now and not tomorrow is the specific thing I most want you to understand before you close this video and wait for the transit to arrive. Because the energy of a planetary ingress does not switch on at the moment of exact perfection like a light being flipped. It builds. It has been building. What you have been feeling for weeks, the restlessness, the pressure of things that want to move but don't have their channel yet, the door you can feel but can't open, that has been the Uranus and Gemini energy approaching. Building pressure on this side of the threshold as it has moved through its final degrees of Taurus. The person who becomes conscious of what is arriving, who tunes in today, in the hours before the ingress, who brings their awareness to what is opening and what they are releasing as it opens, enters the transit already aligned. They are already facing the direction of the new energy when it arrives. Already in the posture of reception. Already in the process of releasing the last of the resistance. The last of the gravity pull toward the known container. The last of the impulse to keep the expression safe within established structures. The last of the holding back that has been a rational response to the Taurus-era rules that are now ending. The person who enters Uranus in Gemini conscious and aligned receives the transit as a door opening, because they have been oriented toward the door. The person who enters it unaware receives it as a disruption, as things changing without their understanding why, as connections and opportunities and shifts in their communicative and expressive life arriving with an unexpectedness that is hard to navigate without context. You have the context. You are in the hours of conscious preparation. And what that means practically, what you can do with the hours between now and tomorrow, is simply to let go of one more layer of the old container. To ask yourself, what is the version of my expression and communication and connection that I have been holding back, and what would it mean to offer it without the Taurus-era filter? To feel the restlessness as what it actually is, readiness, and to let that readiness be present in your body without trying to manage it back into patience. Uranus in Gemini lasts 7 years. And the people who position themselves consciously at the front of this wave, who understand from the beginning what is being liberated and why, who enter the transit aligned rather than asleep, they do not just experience this shift. They ride it. They move with it. They are carried by the current in the direction it is going rather than being moved by it in directions they didn't choose. The difference between those two experiences across 7 years is not marginal. It is the difference between a 7-year period in which you are in conscious relationship with one of the most expansive and liberating cosmic forces of the generation, and a 7-year period in which things happen and you respond without fully understanding the larger movement you are inside. What Uranus in Gemini is going to produce across 7 years for someone who rides it consciously, a communication style so fully your own that it cannot be confused with anyone else's. A creative expression that is not a version of what has already been done, but the thing only you could have made from the specific combination of who you are, what you have survived, what you have learned, and what you carry. Connections, personal, professional, creative, intellectual, that match who you actually are rather than who you were, or who others needed you to be, or who the Taurus-era container was able to hold. A relationship with your own mind, with the specific, irreplaceable quality of how you think and see and make meaning, that is built not on external validation, but on the genuine recognition of your own intelligence meeting the world and the world genuinely responding. That is the 7 years, starting tomorrow. And today, right now, is the preparation for entering it as someone who is ready. The door you have been standing in front of is about to open. You can already feel it, the specific, electric, about-to-happen quality of the atmosphere around a change that is this close. The restlessness is not restlessness anymore. It is anticipation. The pressure of the things that want to move is not frustration anymore. It is the feeling of what is about to move for the first time, recognizing the channel. Tomorrow Uranus enters Gemini. Tomorrow the liberation begins. Tomorrow the filter lifts and the channel opens, and the expression that has been building pressure finds its form, and the connections that have been structurally impossible find their pathway, and the creative work that has been assembling itself in the preparation zone finally has the energy to emerge. You have been standing at the edge of this. The restlessness has been the feeling of standing at the edge. The door you could feel but couldn't open has been the door to this. All of it, the building pressure, the almost saying and not quite saying, the almost connecting and not quite connecting, the version of yourself that felt more real than the one you were presenting, was the preparation for this moment. Stay awake tonight. Let the anticipation be present. Release the last of the holding back, the last of the safety filter, the last of the keep it within the existing container gravity that has been the rational response to an era that is now ending. Tomorrow it becomes real. Tomorrow the door opens. You have been ready for this longer than you know. And what you feel right now, electric, restless, expansive, and quietly certain that something is about to change in a way that changes everything, that feeling is accurate. Stand at the door. It is already opening.